Okay, we'll go ahead and get going and people can join. So for everybody watching this live, we're excited to have you on here, and we'll be sharing the recording as well. So you might be watching the recorded version of this. We're here with Jonathan today. Jonathan is with Sparks Law, and they are located here in Georgia. And the purpose of us doing this call is, we know with the coronavirus right now, there is some uncertainty just for small business owners as far as if you're forced to close your doors for a certain time period, what your options are going to be regarding your lease. And also, if you have employees that are on salary and you're having to close your doors, what are your options going to be there as far as continuing with business and trying to all emerge in the back end of this and the best position as possible. So Jonathan, I don't know if you want to just get us kicked off, but like I said, I know what a lot of questions people are having are things as far as what, any tips you might have for renegotiating leases, or if they're going to be able to pause or defer rent payments, and things of that nature.
Yeah, sure. So thanks so much for having me on. This is a really exciting time and, very unique and interesting time. I guess if people can mute themselves, I'm hearing feedback from myself, so totally fine. I used to be a musician, so I can probably handle it, but go ahead and mute yourself just to be safe. So there's, it sounds like a lot of you are gym owners, so that's great. Love gym owners. I think you guys are, salt of the earth. But now you're in a tough spot because the government is basically ordering you to shut your company down for an indeterminate amount of time. So super scary. I get it. Luckily, the vast majority of contracts all have this provision called the force majeure provision or acts of God provision. If something unintended happens that frustrates the intentions of this contract, be it a lease, be it a subscription agreement, whatever, you do have the ability to legally, back out or pause the contract or whatever it is. That said, it's not very common that something like this happens. So we don't have exactly a lot of case law history on acts of God, happening and frustrating the intentions and purposes of these contracts. So we don't really know, how to handle them exactly or who's on the hook, right? So there's this big risk of, losing money. Of course, people can't attend the gym, so they're going to try to not, pay their dues or their monthly dues. And but also some of that is on the landlord, right? The real estate owner themselves, because that it's their risk too. And the extent to which the risk is sort of prioritized and given to different parties, the gym owner or the landowner, is where we need to sort of flesh that out. Having a business attorney or real estate attorney who can really go to bat for you in this case is a pretty big deal. We negotiate leases a lot, and I'll say that it's a human thing, so it's not, we want like a black and white answer to this, what can and can I do? And it's really not a black and white situation, which is, it's more abstract, right? So it's kind of what are the parties willing to do? I would say, as scary as it is, it's worth it to reach out to the landlord, let them know, hey, obviously this contract is frustrated. If you have an attorney, you can have them reach out for you, but, let's just see where we can meet, somewhere in the continuum between you take all the risk and pay all this money and let me out of the lease for as long as the government requires it, or I'm still going to pay the full rent check as if I had thousands of people, in our gym every day, or every week. So it's a negotiation that we're looking at, and I'm sorry that it's not more of a black and white answer.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is, if do you have any tips for if they try to go talk to their landlord, and maybe the landlord's just not receptive. So they just are not returning calls. They're not, they're just ignoring them, and they have, they're struggling to be able to make that payment, but you also have a party that's is not willing to negotiate with you right now.
Yeah, that's actually great. If they're being little scaredy cats and they're not responding to us, I'm really thrilled about that. Like, yay, that's a win in my book, because we get to say whatever the hell we want, and we get to interpret their lease for them and put their asses on notice that, hey, I'm not going to pay this because, it's a frustrated contract. And I spoke with Jonathan Sparks of Sparks Law, and he's a badass and he knows his shit. And he read my lease and blah, blah, blah. And then if they don't respond to that, they're legally put on notice that our interpretation of how this contract works is the winning interpretation, is the one that will happen. So if we take this to courts and we say, Your Honor, we show them this, our interpretation, we did our best to review the agreement, and they didn't balk, they didn't push back, they didn't disagree with us, they just stayed quiet. So we had to assume, Your Honor, that our interpretation was the correct one. That's wonderful, because the court is probably going to rule in our favor and say, hey, I mean, they put your ass on notice, they left messages, they emailed you, they had their attorney reach out to you. You didn't say shit, so you're left holding the bag. Like, that's your risk. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And guys, too, we've got the chat going. So if you have questions coming in as we're going through any of this, you can post in the chat, and then we'll cover those at the end. So the other scenario, okay, so we've covered if we can't get the landlord to kind of negotiate with us at all. Another thing I know some people have expressed concern at is if we don't pay right now, typically the process as far as, if you don't give your rent check, and hopefully everybody at this point, I mean, we're into March, is probably given their rent check for March. So we're really probably looking at April, potentially May at this point. So I know some people have, fear of what, am I going to get evicted if I haven't paid this rent check and we're 2 weeks in? Or how do I know what my potential late fees would be? And they're looking at their leases, and it's a little bit, blurry, and the legal terms are a little bit hard to understand. So am I going to be faced with a $5,000 late fee for a month? So, I mean, is there any insight you can give them into, if they go look in their lease, what they could be potentially facing there, or what, the process is? And right now in a lot of states, courts are even paused for a time period, so
Yeah.
aren't even really being heard right this second. But
Yeah. I mean, this is, like we all are saying, this is unprecedented. And the con to that, the problem with that, is that we don't know, and we have very little certainty with how this is going to play out. But the huge pro to this, the opportunity that we have here, is that if we're able to confront our fearful thing, if we're able to look this lease issue in the eye and just decide how we're going to react to it, if we're doing that and the landlord is not, or if they're more of a scaredy cat than we are or something, our interpretation wins. So the fact that these are so abstract in the laws and the case precedent that we have is to our advantage, to the extent to which we can face this fucker and meet it head on. Like, pardon my French, but this is a scary time, right? But if we can be confident and opportunistic and optimistic, our interpretation of all of those contracts will win over. I would love to be able to take these contracts, and let me just explain this little thing, because I'm talking about it a lot. So if I send somebody who's an expert in their field and expected to have a certain level of knowledge and understanding of how the law works, if I put them on notice in a written thing, which an email includes, I'm interpreting this to be the force majeure provision, section 18A in our lease. Therefore, I will not be, paying for April's rent, and I'm going to deduct, I don't know, 2 weeks from March because the government isn't allowing me to have my doors open. If you take issue with this, put me on notice and reply. But if not, then we're going to assume, and I'll keep you updated. If we say that to them and they don't come back with any response, negating what we're saying or having their own interpretation, we're golden. I mean, we're really strong. We can take that to the court and say that we're not on a duty to
Go.
um, to pay that rent, because we put them on notice, and it's assumed that if they have a different opinion, then they're going to react differently. They have to object. They have to tell us, I totally disagree. Screw that. You owe me $5,000 this month, whatever it is. So if they don't, we're great. And it's kind of a day by day thing that we're just going to have to watch and negotiate, but that's a legal thing that's not written into our contract. That's like a tool that I can give you guys, and you can use it, to your advantage.
Perfect. And I know do you have any tips for, because again, a lot of our clients are gym owners or people who are going to be watching this are gym owners. So kind of transitioning off of just leases for a minute. And guys, if you have questions, again, just post them in the chat. But another issue.
Let me say one thing before we get off the leases, Emily. So all the courts are shut down now, right? So, if you're worried or fearful about getting evicted, like they can't even file anything, so the courts are shut down. The courts are shut down. This hasn't happened since the Revolutionary War. Like, the courts are shut, so they can't file anything. So, don't worry about getting evicted, because how are they going to evict you? I mean, I guess they could lock you out maybe, but even if they do that, then that might incur, damages that we have against them for other things. So yeah, feel free to call. Like, if you have more questions about this, I'm happy to talk,
Yeah, and I'm going to be sharing all of Jonathan's information so that after this call, if you guys want to individually get hold of him, and you are based in Georgia, but will you be able to, some of our clients are outside of Georgia. So
Yeah.
are you still able to kind of help?
Yeah, no, I can talk to people, more than happy to help. Most states' laws are really similar. Like I won't be able to do a filing for a case, in another state, but we can't do filings for other cases anyway. So like, who cares?
All right, so transitioning off of leases for a second, another thing, like I said, a lot of gym owners are facing is we've got contracts. A lot of our clients are, for the gym, and these, weekly contracts are paying weekly. So do you have any insight into if people are reaching out to our gym owners and saying, hey, cancel my payment this month? Now, technically, because I've seen a lot of, I know, especially for clients working with campaign charts, because we've given them templates for the contracts that they have. Traditionally, if somebody was sick or they travel, their sessions roll over. So now when we're getting these people that come to us and say, hey, my work is making me quarantine for a month, I can't come into your gym for a month, pause my payment. Do you have any creative ways or any tips, or, because obviously if they go pause everybody's payments for their gyms for a month,
you got no income.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I haven't read the contracts, and I presume that a lot of people have different contracts. There's different states' laws, with the way you need to write these. If they say pause their payment, I would look that as a sales and marketing opportunity where you need to, and I know it's going to be scary, but pick up the dang phone. Like, just look at it like you're about to do this like max weight of squats. Like you can do it, right? Just picture it and just get in there and do it, right? So pick up the phone and just say, hey, obviously during this time when you're at home, you're gonna want to work out. You're gonna want to exercise. What can we do? How can we help? We understand you want us to pause your payment. That's going to be a bit of an issue. We've got some, legal arguments, and you do too, but we don't want to make a dispute. We want to help you to work out and, get the training and the help that you need. Would it be of value to you if we had some of our best trainers that you love and that you've been with for, 5 years now, doing, personal coaching sessions with you, through an online, platform? I mean, we know that they're experts and they're badasses. They can come up with, pack the suitcase full of some clothes and stuff, and you can do pull-ups or whatever you call those things for your shoulders, and, all of these things, push press and everything. body weight workouts. But just, you're there to help them stay in shape. And, they're going to want to be in shape more now than normal because they're not doing their other stuff. Like they're stuck at home thinking about their gut and, their flap. Like, do people, I'm working out 3 times as much as normal because I'm working from home. So everybody else is in this spot. So if you guys can pivot a little bit and come up with new, verticals, new things that you can sell, I think you can actually, turn this into a win, to be honest.
Yeah, and for, on the topic of doing online too, what we actually did for our clients is we have created an entire online at-home program that we're going to
Wow.
be doing you guys white label, so that you'll be able to give it to your clients and it will require no time on your end to roll out. But I think it's a good point what Jonathan said. Y'all are going to just have to pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Email can be read 1,000 different ways, and you're just going to have to pick up the phone and talk with clients. And I think how you laid it out perfectly, as far as we have different legal, if they try to keep pushing, we've got legal arguments on both ends. And again, for everybody, this is uncharted territory, right? There's no case law. This has never happened before. So it is, everyone entering uncharted territory. But to an extent, you have to hold your ground too, because keep in mind, guys, if you pause a couple people's payments and they tell other people, you're going to have a ripple effect throughout your business where overnight everybody's going to be trying to pause and freeze, and we'll be dealing with an issue a little bit bigger than just making
Right. Yeah. I mean, so just so you know, what's probably in those contracts, and again, I haven't read them, and so I don't know without reading them, but likely, in all likelihood, you have a act of God, force majeure provision in those as well that would is essentially allow them to step out of it or pause it or stop it even, until they can sort of come up with, a different way to train, or before we get through this where they can go back to the gym. There's also what we call a duty to mitigate damages, in theirs, and that's read into all contracts, even if it's not written down. So you, as the business owner with the subscription contract with your customers, you have a duty to mitigate. So you actually need to Jesus, excuse me. You actually need to tell them that, you're available to help them out, right? So mitigating damages means that you're offering them something, even if it's not 100% of what they would normally get from the contract. You're offering them 70%, 80%, and you're on a legal duty to do this. And you can argue that as, saying, look, what value is it if you still get the training? If you're like, you just want to burn, 500 calories in a workout, 4 days a week, right? You want your quads to, explode or whatever. Like, how can we get you there? That's the value you want. If we can do that for you for the same price or even with a little discount, we all win. Like, you'll get better training, you'll get more in shape, and you're going to have more time at home. So we want to help you, you help us. Like, let's make this work. And similarly, your landowner with the lease has a duty to mitigate their damages as well. So those are some of the legal ramifications and arguments that everybody has. Like, we all have these force majeure provisions, but nobody really knows how that all shakes out in the end. And to be honest, we're probably going to be seeing this working itself out in the courtrooms for the next 18 months or even 2 years, where we're going to say, well, everyone knows it was a funky time around, March 15th, 2020. So this thing hit, on March 17th, 2020. And then everybody in the jury and the judge is going to go, oh yeah, that was a weird time. Everybody knows that was a weird time. It was like Y2K, but it was on steroids, and that's crazy. So we don't know how it's all going to play out. All we have to do now is just do our best to fulfill our contractual obligations. And to me, for gym owners, that's just getting them good training, So if we can do that remotely with technology, which is awesome, let's just do that, right? and just get their heads out of the whole like freak out, I'm going to pause everything, just like that's not going to help anybody, like let's just, what do you need? Why did you sign up for this thing in the first place? What's the value to you? You want to get in shape, we can get your ass in shape. We can even do it better now than before.
No, I love that. So the next thing I want to transition over to, and so far we don't have any questions. So if you at this point have a question regarding anything that we've talked about, go ahead and post it in the chat now. But the next thing I wanted to just briefly cover is the fortunate side for a lot of gym owners, or some of our business owners in other segments, is that a lot of the employees are hourly or paid on a session basis. Now, some of them do have employees that are on salary. And so in the event that they have to shut down operations, and again, guys, for our campaign sharks, we have different ways to help you guys continue to give your star players hours and to work through this for the length of time. That's something y'all will be getting this week. But what options are going to be there? So I know Jennifer and I, before you and I had jumped on this call, had talked about potentially having a furlough day, or what options would potentially be available.
Okay, so great question. Every business is different, right? I mean, a little bit. There's uniqueness in all of these contracts. There's unique situations. There's unique customers. There's unique business owners, staff, employment agreements, on and on and on. And it's different across state lines too. So anything I say here is not to be interpreted as legal advice. I love you, but I don't know you. So you would need to send me your stuff and then I'll figure it out. And then we can, if you want, you can engage my firm and we can help. Disclaimers, disclaimers, disclaimers. All that said, there's a lot of rapidly changing laws with regards to salaried employees right now and hourly employees. But I'll say this, typically, and you guys will want to take notes probably, hourly employees, you can just not pay for hours that they're not going to work. So, it's not a layoff if you reduce their hours by 50% because you don't have the work. I mean, you might call them up and say, confront the issue head on, but say, look, we've lost a lot of business. We're only going to be able to hire you for this amount. I understand this is going to be difficult, but we're all in this together and we can get through this. Okay. 1099s are a little easier on the employer because, technically a 1099 is just on a contractor basis. So if they're only, on a per class basis, if it's a yoga instructor or, jazzercise, or I don't know, people don't do jazzercise anymore, but I used to do it. I thought it was great. But, whatever it is, like you just don't hire them for those classes and, you should be okay. I would hit them up for whatever, web-based classes they can do though, because those are probably some of your rock star trainers that everyone's going to want to, get some personal attention from. Okay, so it gets difficult with salaried employees. Literally on Saturday, just 2 days ago, I was advising clients that we can put a policy in place that allows us to deduct from their paychecks, from their salaried paychecks, time that they didn't work. However, that has changed as of midnight on Saturday, and now if it passes, it's already passed the House. If it passes the United States Senate office as well, we're going to have new restrictions on the Family Medical Leave Act, the FMLA, and the Department of Labor might weigh in. So again, this is all abstract and, up and coming, everything's changing, and we're sort of just doing our best to, hit this as we go. My law firm administrator, who has, I believe, a master's in HR and is certainly a master in all respects and all of those things to me. He's going to do a webinar and we can, send that link. You guys are welcome to attend. But he's going to go through all the new changes in the law and what we can and can't do, even if we have, a solid handbook. Just so you know, the current iteration of the law is as of, yesterday, is proposing to force a 2-week paid sort of vacation thing for sick leave. Certainly if they have COVID-19, or if anyone in their immediate family that they have to take care of has COVID, then we have to basically pay their salary, and we're not allowed to deduct that from their pay, which is a hit. But I'm expecting that, I mean, even though we have, 2,000 cases in Georgia, I think now, or something, it's far more likely that they will not have those, and they'll just be wanting to work from home for other reasons, which might allow us to deduct still. So, get on that webinar. We'll interpret it for you and be able to answer questions better then, when and if it passes the Senate too. So, normally things go pretty slow on the Hill in DC. So this is kind of a day by day thing. But just do your best, be nice. Like, everybody's freaking out. Just be a good business owner, be a good boss, meet people where they're at. I mean, reasonably, some people are freaked out, and some people are freaking out unreasonably because they're just force feeding themselves this fear mongering bullshit in the media, and they need to like calm that down. Like, you need to put them on a yoga prescription and some meditation, right? So anybody that watches the news, 8 hours a day is going to be losing their shit right now. And
Right.
as good bosses, we need to help them out of that.
Yes, no, exactly. That's a big thing we've been telling people too, is stop watching. Yes, you've got to get some of your
Stop
news,
watching the news.
but stop
You will
watching.
find out everything you need to
Oh,
find
yeah.
out. I guarantee it. You will learn everything you need to
Yeah.
know. Just turn that shit off. It's
And
the plague. The news is the plague, not the plague itself.
right. Two, it's with your employees and your clients too. If you're going into a session right now and you're just talking about it nonstop, you're going to create panic in your company and organization too. So
They're going to be pissed off. Your customers want to God, shut up about the COVID.
yeah. All right. Well, does anybody have any questions before we wrap this up? I'm going to be sharing the link for this recording if you came in halfway through, or maybe you're watching it. And then I'll also share the link when Jonathan has it for the other separate webinar that they're going to be doing, so that you can get questions there. And I'll also send over to you guys the information for how to get hold of Jonathan and his firm if you need them to look at your lease, or if you have separate questions and maybe want to, retain them or get their help, so that you can.
Yeah, let me offer this too. If you call up any of your customers and they want to, stop payments or whatever deal you come up with them, and you can really come up with pretty much any deal. If you want to reduce their pay by, I don't know, 30%, 20%, whatever it is, whatever deal you come up with them, give us a holler and we'll give you like a template contract that you can send to everybody that's, signing off on this new deal, so that you can have it in writing and you don't need to worry about, not getting paid, and it's enforceable, and, all of that. So I want you guys to pick up the phone. I know it's scary, but now's the time to like confront it, be fearless, pick up the phone and talk to everybody. Whatever deals you come up with, we can help to get it in writing and get it, solid, so that you're not risking, not taking advantage of the deal. And sometimes you're going to need to fund people. If you need to like finance somebody's, whatever. Listen, I want to say this too. Business partners that are losing their shit, if you ever considered buying them out, now is the time to buy their ass out.
Yeah.
Let them be wusses about it and just say, hey, we're going to lose the business in a week. We can't make payroll. We can't make our lease. How about I give you $5,000-6,000 and I'll just buy your shares? And they're like, oh yeah, please, baby. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the best time to like be smart and see that opportunity. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's, if you can get your head out of looking at the negative media, it's a really unique time in business. One thing we tell you guys to do is posting content videos, strategic content videos. Guys, people are trapped at their house. They're bored. Their kids are, driving them nuts. Right now, they're consuming everything they can find. So guess what? Your competitors are pulling back right now. They're cutting off their ads.
They're afraid.
They're afraid. Right now is your time to absolutely dominate the marketplace. I mean, it is really a unique business time. And yes, it can be scary in certain senses too, but the big thing is, to stay positive and to look at, okay, this could last for a couple weeks. We don't know, it could last for months. We don't know, but billionaires are made. As I said, billionaires are made in times like this.
Right now, no, for real. I mean, I remember Apple stock was like $92 in 2008. And I was like, I want to invest all my money in Apple stock. And my idiot, financial broker guy was like, no, man, it's going to go lower. And I've been kicking myself to this day. But like, if you see other gyms, other businesses that are going to shut down because they're losing it, that's a great opportunity as well. And listen, we can write a contract to buy that business where you're not really risking anything. You can say, look, if your clients, your customers give us X amount of dollars in the next 6 months, we'll buy it for this price. If they don't give us anything, we're not going to buy it at all. Like you can put anything in there. If they're planning to fail and let go of all their hard-earned goodwill and their gym memberships and everything, that's such a great time. The businesses that survive now are going to absolutely destroy it for the next 10 years. I guarantee it. Mark my words. You will succeed in the next 10 years if you can just survive this shit right now.
No, absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. Does anybody have any questions? So far, I don't see any coming in through the chat. Everybody's good to go. Well, thank you, Jonathan, for jumping on and sharing your insight. We greatly appreciate it. And guys, I will be sharing this recording from you. And again, like I said, I will also be sharing the contact information for Jonathan and his firm so that you can get in touch with them on a more individual basis if needed. So,
yeah, and just reach out. We won't charge you for the phone call. Like, we're not really hourly billers for the most part. So, yeah, we'd love to help. I want to help small business owners succeed through this tough time.
yes,
So,
absolutely. All right. Bye, guys.
bye.